I also like to think about these skills as potentially giving us two modes of mind. I think about it in two modes. So sometimes when we're doing dropping anchor, compassion work, connecting to values and our valued goals and actions, sometimes we'll lock into that stuff and we'll be focused and engaged and connected, and we'll feel good, and we might start to feel like our old self again and getting some of that enjoyment and fulfillment back. And hopefully as we go on, we'll do more of that. We'll get more deeply into our valued actions and start to feel more fulfillment in our life. However, there's another mode where we're doing that. We're engaging in an action we value, something to look after ourselves, or connecting with someone else, or the practices that we're talking about, or an activity we enjoy, and the distress and difficulty is still there. So the anxious thoughts, the depressive thoughts, the anxious feelings, depressed feelings, the pain, physical pain, the suffering, that sort of stuff is kind of there in the background, and we're trying to engage deeply in what we're doing. And what we want to do is get so good at accepting that stuff that it becomes more like a radio station playing in the background, so that we can really be present in what we're doing. And then we might, as we move forward, we might move between these two modes. We might have moments where we are doing this valued action and we're in it and we feel great, and our anxiety or depression kind of goes even further back or even disappears for times, and brilliant, we can savor and enjoy just feeling connected and joyful in our life. However, we want to be prepared for the other mode where the difficulty's there and we're working with it, and we're trying to still do the things we care about, our valued actions, and we're working to use diffusion and acceptance and effective action with the challenges. So we're going to do a bit more compassion work again today to reinforce that, so that we can at least be this kind, supportive friend as we move in and out of these two modes. Really savor the first mode and then really be compassionate and supportive when we're in the second mode. And so that there's less of a preference between those two. And then the paradox is that we tend to get more of the first one, where we don't mind that second mode and we can really look after ourselves in it. So we're going to do some compassion work, and then we're going to do some values connection again to really power this, to give the motivation to it. And so, as you do a practice like a compassion practice like we did there, or any of our mindfulness or compassion practices, again, these two modes could come up. At times you'll be very engaged and connected to what you're doing, and you may feel a sense of calm or another pleasant emotion or something like that. But that won't always happen, especially if you're in more distress in your life, more challenges, the external situation is really difficult, or you've been suffering and struggling for some time. Then we want to be in that second mode, where as the difficult thoughts come up, the worry, the rumination, the judgment, anything like that, we're just acknowledging it and gently coming back, acknowledging and gently coming back, noticing pain and gently coming back. And really trying to engage in the practice as best we can, knowing that when we're struggling with our mental health, our concentration will always be impacted. It will be much harder to focus. It'll be much harder to stay present. But we can build it. Even in that place, we can cultivate attention, if nothing else. Even if we're not enjoying the things we do, or we don't feel so connected in our life, we can practice attention. And the nice side effect is that those other things start to come back as we master it again. I always think about it like rehabilitating from an injury. When you've pulled a back muscle, the advice nowadays is not to sit still and lie down and do nothing. It's to gently start moving. But you wouldn't expect yourself to run a marathon. You would just gently build it up little by little. And I think attention and concentration is the same. So it might be reading, a paragraph of a book a day to begin with, and just rereading stuff over and over again if you need to, until you start to get your concentration back. So another bit of compassion work. I mean, one thing I would say when we do a longer practice like that, there's often a cultural myth that we've all internalized over a long period of time that something like meditation is always calming, relaxing, and soothing. And, you know, we see this in movies and stories and news articles and, you know, right back to the 60s when the Beatles and people like that started to engage in transcendental meditation and all that sort of stuff. There's a bit of a myth that it is always like a sedative and a calming thing. And I think it's really useful for us to change that narrative to see it more as an opportunity to train skills, actually. You know, the side effect might be that it is calming and relaxing at times, and that's great. We can savor when that happens, but actually it's a focused period of time to train some attentional skills, some compassionate perspectives taking skills and relationship to self skills that will help us in our lives through the difficulty. And so it won't always be calming and relaxing. We don't need to push on through. If it's too difficult, we can come in and out of the practice. We can change where we focus or what we're doing, or even just check out completely and think about an area of interest or something we enjoy, and then gently come in and kind of pendulate between that, kind of go back and forth and titrate, you know, how much we do it, especially with compassion. As we know, compassion, sometimes if we have a painful history and painful early attachments and relationships, some of that will get triggered as we start to be kind to ourselves. So we can just gently come in and out and build it up slowly. Use mindfulness to recycle the stuff that comes up, the thoughts and feelings, the difficulties. Use them to practice with, and just take our time gently. So hopefully that was useful for you guys, and I hope that the idea of these two modes of mind makes sense. That, you know, sometimes we're deeply absorbed and engaged and savoring and appreciating an experience, a practice, life. Other times we're working with our difficulties, our anxious thoughts, depressed thoughts, pain, you know, other challenges, OCD, you know, right through to you know, hallucinations and things like that people might experience. We're working with all of that difficulty, and then we're trying to diffuse and get some distance and observe the thoughts and feelings, open up, make room for the feelings, so we drop the struggle with them, and then as best we can engage in the thing we care about. And over time, you know, we want to build less preference of those two modes, and then the paradox is we'll typically get more of the first mode, because we're training our attention to be more in the experience and what we're doing. Even with pain, you know, we've talked about pain a lot in this group. Even with pain, we can get better at doing that. So I hope that's useful.